Okay, just a very quick one this morning, just on what a post-Putin world might look like. And well, just to explore this, we'll have to drift into the glorious hypothetical world where we wake up tomorrow to the news that Putin has had some mysterious heart attack or something and is dead. Oh no. That would of course cause great wailing and gnashing of the teeth, no doubt, between the Russian influencer operation in the West. Morgoth's review would presumably dust off the old black armband he metaphorically at least donned for news of Dugin's daughter allegedly being murdered. The same black armband he presumably wore when he was writing that essay about the heavily armed Russian soldier killed on the field of battle, having invaded Ukraine with a view to playing his part in a genocidal occupation of the country. Presumably, metaphorically at least, he was wearing that armband for that. Well, these are the only deaths in the invasion that white-pilled him, in his own words, that he's ever mentioned. But if Putin died, well, he would have to, even though he's now done the monk-like silence of a lot of these dissident right people, just completely unexisted the conflict. It just doesn't exist from their timeline. It's almost like this is a massive guilt tell, isn't it, Morgoth? One of many, many massive guilt tells. But let's move on to more interesting matters, and that would be this hypothetical world where Putin is dead. What happens next? Of course, this is speculation. Of course, you can't know. But basically, a successor would emerge. And I mean, it's long said that, succession in Russian politics, it's like a dogfight under a carpet, and you don't know who the winner is until they emerge. But I mean, you can kind of get a handle on it, and you can say what would happen is the FSB, which essentially run the country, would provide a successor. Certainly in the short term. Now, this would come from within. There would be a factional, if that's the right term, struggle within the FSB. And the likelihood is you'd probably go one way or the other. The first way would be a doubling down candidate. Now, this is the faction within. And when we say the FSB, you're talking about people who probably aren't even known to the public. This is like, there's probably about half a dozen of these people in Russia that are kind of almost even beyond the kind of the sort of visible managerial structure of the FSB. And of course, they kind of like dovetail into other areas. But, and again, all you can really do is speculate. But the chances are there would be a factional struggle within these people. Most of these people, well, they're committed to Putin, ostensibly, because otherwise they wouldn't have maintained their positions. But they will be looking to a new world. They will be looking to a new scenario where, their butterbroad would be buttered on the correct side. So it's arguable that the concessions to the West might be made and a candidate might be put forward to play a more, conciliatory role. That's one possibility. The second possibility is that they go into the doubling down candidate. So this is the kind of like the hawks, if you like, because there are people within Russia, quite significant people, that are sort of critical of Putin in that he hasn't fought this war to the way that they'd have liked. I mean, this is embodied by people like Gherkin. He's not of the kind of level that we're talking, really, but I mean, he would be a sort of figure who would kind of echo them. So this is the hawks, the doubling down kind of lot. That is one potential. The second potential is you would go to a sort of conciliatory figure who would this would be the sort of licking the wounds figure. I truly don't know, obviously. I don't think anyone who tells you they know, full of shit, to be honest. My gut feeling is they'd probably go to the former, because I'm not really sure a conciliatory figure would be possible without making massive concessions, and those massive concessions would have to involve sacrificing people within that kind of orbit, because to actually placate Ukraine and the West, and to get some kind of concession that they can be happy with, where they can then go away and lick their wounds and rebuild the economy and all the rest of it, which isn't in the interests of the world, quite frankly. That's my personal opinion. But I think you've got to slay the beast, and that's just how it is. If they do go off and lick their wounds, they'll just come back again. This is the problem, that Russia will always put forward figures like Putin. Now, of course, if the war ended, if there was a conciliatory figure, there would likely be a period of calm. But again, like, Putin doesn't arise from nothing. He arises from the Russian social structure, the Russian social psychology, the Russian oligarchy, the Russian mind, the Russian soul, if you like, that they love talking about so much. So, you will always get figures like him. And he's not just some sort of man of history. He's been placed essentially in the role because the factions that he represents for the perestroika deception, for all these things, that was a strategy that they wanted to action. If they wanted to action it once, they'll want to action it again. And if they do it in another 15 years, whatever. So the whole kind of licking their wounds thing, I don't know. I kind of think that they've gone all in with Putin, and ultimately, as things stand, they've kind of failed. So what do they do in this situation? Is it just tailspin? I think it probably would be. I mean, that's my kind of gut instinct, that they'd just go for a sort of doubling down figure. But again, we can't know. This is just speculation. So there you go. No great conclusions, because as I say, there won't be until the time emerges, until the victorious dog, emerges from underneath the carpet and those little figures slip back into the shadows. So there you go.